You're mine now. You belong to me. Today we're going to play a new fun game.
Hello and welcome to the Twin Peaks podcast. My name is Dan.
My name is Nicole.
And this is the movie-based podcast where we talk about two films based on a theme. But not this week, because this week we're just picking them.
Yeah.
Last time we mentioned that your topic choice is leading woman. So we're going to pick them this time. And I think, generally speaking, we're just going to go straight into it, aren't we? We're not going to muck around with saying what we've been up to and all that stuff, because we just go straight into it. Get to the meat of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Was there a specific reason that you chose that topic?
Yeah, because when this episode when we review the movies, it will be around the time that International Women's Day will be.
Okay. Sounds good, mate. We've done female directors before, but we haven't done female actors and leading women. So I think I mentioned in the last episode that now we're doing these picks as a separate episode. I'm concentrating more on building the letterbox lists that go with the episodes. So when we release a theme, like last time, it was post-apocalyptic movies. So as soon as that episode dropped last week, I made our letterbox list live with all the post-apocalyptic movies in it. Ones we spoke about, some we didn't. And I'm doing the same with the leading woman topic. And as it stands, there are 227 films in that list. And there are many, many more that I haven't even thought about. So you chose it because it's International Women's Day. We've got loads to choose from. And what we're going to do is you're going to choose three. I'm going to choose three. We're going to knock one out of each other's list immediately without knowing anything about them. And then we discuss the other four in a little bit more detail. And then we end up choosing one from each other's list to come up with our final two. And that's how we come up with our shows for the featured episode. So a little tradition, or something that's become a tradition, is that whoever chooses the topic gives their three choices first. So as you chose the topic, what are your three?
So my first pick is Suffragettes. My second pick is The Breadwinner.
Okay.
And my third pick is 37 Seconds.
37 Seconds. Okay. Confession time. I haven't heard of any of your films. So
really?
This will be interesting. Yeah, it's going to be hard to knock one out.
Okay.
That's going to sound very disturbing, taken out of context. Okay. Oh, I'm turning into Joe Pesci from Lethal Weapon. Right, my three. Number one, The Invisible Man. Number two, I'm torn between two here. It's one I've seen and one I haven't seen. It's between Ready or Not or On the Basis of Sex. I haven't seen On the Basis of Sex. I have seen Ready or Not. But On the Basis of Sex was directed by a woman. I'm going to choose that one. And I'm not going to choose Ready or Not. That was a little last minute decision. Peek behind the curtain, if you will. So that was my second pick. And my third pick, and unusual for us, but my third pick is going to be a brand new film just released on home release. St. Maude. I'm going to go for it. The problem with St. Maude is that it's not on any streaming services yet, so you will have to pay for it to rent it.
Oh, that's fine. I don't mind doing that.
Okay, cool. So let's recap then. So you have chosen Suffragettes, The Breadwinner, and 37 Seconds. I have chosen The Invisible Man, On the Basis of Sex, and St. Maude. I don't know anything about any of yours.
You know what Suffragettes would be about, though.
No idea.
No? Oh, really?
No,
okay. There you go.
Not
That's all right. I will not go into any more details about it.
Well, it's going to be a real gamble, whatever I knock off, because I don't know any of them.
Do you want me to choose one of yours? Knock one of yours out?
Yeah, go on then.
The only reason why I'm knocking this film out, it's fantastic, and probably something that I would want to rewatch at some point, is The Invisible Man. It's really I watched it for the first, well, actually, did it come out last year? I think it, or the year before, technically.
I think it came out, I think it probably depends where you are in the world, but I think for us it came out in 2020.
Yeah.
It was the last film that I went to go and see before lockdown, and still is the last film that I went to see at the cinema almost exactly a year ago at the time of recording. So it's a brilliant film. Again, we spoke about Fury Road last week having subverted expectations. This film very much did that as well. I think it's an instant classic, and I'm very, very excited to see what Lee Whannell brings to the Universal Monsters universe going forward. And I'd like to see a sequel to this one as well. I think there are lots of ways that you could go with a sequel. But if they don't make one, then we've got a really good, solid film. Okay. So The Invisible Man is gone. I'm going to knock out of yours without knowing anything about any of them. I'm just going to gamble, and I'm going to knock out 37 seconds.
Okay.
Is that a good move, or is it a bad move? What is it?
I have mentioned this film on the podcast before when we did disability in film.
Okay.
It's about a young girl who has cerebral palsy, and they actually used the actor who is playing this role. She actually has cerebral palsy, which I think is a fantastic thing to do. And
Absolutely.
it's just a really beautiful story about her. You know, it's a coming of age film, so maybe if we do a coming of age topic, may pop up there. So
okay,
I'm not too heartbroken because I watched it maybe a few months ago. And Suffragettes I haven't seen in a while, and Breadwinner is a film that I watched for the first time last year. It's an animation, actually.
Alrighty, so we've got 4 left now. What remains is Suffragettes and The Breadwinner in yours, and On the Basis of Sex and Saint Maude in mine. Okay, so now we're at the stage where we're allowed to look shit up. So
yeah,
I'm going to look up Suffragettes. 2015, another 2015 film. We love these 2015 films, don't we? 6.9 out of 10 on IMDb, 73% Rotten Tomatoes, 4.6 out of 10 on Amazon. 91% of Google users like this film. Early 20th century Britain. Okay.
Well, it's a very important part of history for women, where it's about this group of women who want to be able to vote, and that's what the film's about. And it's based off a true story, and I'll give you the synopsis for it. So the tagline is Mothers, Daughters, Rebels, and the synopsis is based on a true events about the foot soldiers of the early feminist movement who were forced underground to invade the state. And there's quite a big cast. So Carrie Mulligan's in it.
Oh, Promising Young Woman.
Yes. But yeah, it's a very important topic, and being International Women's Day, that's what it's all about. It's all about, embracing every female in the world.
It was directed by a woman as well, I see. Sarah Gavron. Okay.
With my choices this week as well, I wanted to choose different cultures of female. Okay. So 37 Seconds is about a Japanese female who has cerebral palsy, and The Breadwinner is based in Afghanistan, and it came out in 2017, directed by Nora Tuwemi. Hope I pronounced that correctly. And the synopsis is: a headstrong young girl in Afghanistan, ruled by the Taliban, disguises herself as a boy in order to provide for her family. What I like about this film is, okay, she's providing for her family, but the father figure in this film, he stands up for her daughter, which is a great thing to show. And unfortunately, something happens to him. And it's an animation. It's a really, really beautiful animation that I've watched. And it's on Netflix, if anyone is interested in watching it. So, yeah, they're my 2 films.
So my 2 picks then. The first one is On the Basis of Sex. And I'll be honest with you, this didn't make my list until this morning. As we recorded, actually, it was my number 4 choice, and I was kind of torn between this and Ready or Not, but I only found out about it last night when I was listening to a podcast that I like to listen to called the Top 10 Show, where they similar to us, they have a theme, but they create top 10 films within that film. Right. And one of them they mentioned was On the Basis of Sex, and I'd never heard of it. Went up and looked it up. looks interesting, female lead, directed by a woman, female-centric story. So I'll just give you a little rundown of what the film's about then. So On the Basis of Sex, it came out in 2018, so a fairly recent film. It was directed by a Mimi leader who did Deep Impact and the underrated action film for me, Peacemaker. I think that's a really good film and doesn't get talked about enough.
Okay.
120 minutes long. The tagline reads, "Her story made history." So the synopsis reads, young lawyer Ruth Bader Ginsburg teams up with her husband Marty to bring a groundbreaking case before the US Court of Appeals and overturn a century of sex discrimination. It stars, oh God, I haven't written that down, but it's got Felicity Jones in it. I know that much. Who is the lead in Rogue One, which was another an honourable mention for me. Rogue One, female lead. Okay, so my next pick is Saint Maude, and I mentioned this last week in last week's episode. Sarah had bought it as a blind buy, and we watched it at the weekend. And it's really, really good. It's a horror, psychological horror. It's a new film. It came out last year, and it was directed by Rose Glass. It stars Morfydd Clark as Maude and Jennifer Eel as Amanda. Really just two people in it. There are other people, but they're the only two important ones. And hour 24 minutes long, nice and short, nice and snappy. And the synopsis reads, Maude is a reclusive young nurse whose impressionable demeanour causes her to pursue a pious path of Christian devotion after an obscure trauma. Now changed with the hospice care of Amanda, a retired dancer ravaged by cancer, Maude's fervent faith quickly inspires an obsessive conviction that she must save her ward's soul from internal damnation, whatever the cost. Really interesting, atmospheric, dark little psychological horror film. I have seen it recently. It's definitely one that I want to revisit at some point. Between the two of them, I don't really mind which way you want to go. Sometimes I have a favourite. I'm kind of leaning towards one. Like last time, I really wanted you to pick Fury Road, and you did, thank God. You don't always pick the ones I want you to, but genuinely this time, like it's 50-50. Like I haven't seen On the Basis of Sex. It looks interesting. I want to see it. And Saint Maude, I know that is really good. Are you any closer to thinking about what you want to choose for me? Have you got an idea?
Well, I'm just looking up to see if I can actually rent this film.
Oh yeah, good point.
No, I don't think so.
That might be the deciding factor then.
To be fair, On the Basis of Sex was going to be an honourable mention. So yeah, I guess On the Basis of Sex is my choice for next week's podcast.
Because we can't find Saint Maude in Australia. That's a shame. All right, fair enough. Like I said, I was 50-50. I really want to watch On the Basis of Sex anyway. And as you've chosen that, I'm going to go for Suffragettes. Two fairly recent films, 2015 and 2018. Got any honourable mentions? You got any other ones that you were thinking about putting on? Or
yeah, another option. I had another idea of maybe either putting The Help or Hidden Figures as other options for my three picks, but
I had Hidden Figures. I was considering.
Yeah, I've actually got that. I didn't realize I had that on DVD, but I've seen that fairly recently, and I watched that in the cinema. Actually, it's a fantastic film and very important film.
Yeah, good movie
as well. We've watched this before, but Ex Machina would have been a good pick for this. Another true story, Erin Brockovich.
Okay.
20th Century Woman.
Yeah.
Legally Blonde. Promising Young Woman. Also, another film that we've reviewed before is The Farewell. Her Smell. It's with the same actor that is in Invisible Man. And the other film that I was potentially going to put on my list was Their Finest, which is about the film industry. So, but yeah, I think it's just about to get off SBS On Demand. So I might watch it before we review our two films for the next ep anyway. Okie dokie. What about you, mate? What options did you have in a list, all 200 films that you had on your list?
How did you know? Strap yourself in. When you first said this to me, the first film that I put on the list was Atomic Blonde, because I think that's a great film. But as I dug deeper, I wanted something a little bit more rich in terms of what the story was about. So I changed my mind. But Atomic Blonde is definitely an honourable mention for me. And staying within the action genre, I mean, between these three franchises, between Resident Evil, Underworld, The Hunger Games, there are like 20 films, but none of them are any good. In my opinion, Wonder Woman, the first one, I've not seen 84 yet. Apparently it's toilet, but I haven't had the pleasure yet. The Assistant, which we've spoken about before on the podcast. The Favourite, that's a good film, period comedy. Hidden Figures, which you mentioned. The Babadook. And two films I haven't seen I actually quite want to see, Portrait of a Lady on Fire and Widows. But yeah, as I said, 227 currently in the list. You've just reeled off 7 or 8 films that I hadn't thought of, so I'll add those to the letterbox list. So it'll be plus 230. It could be somewhere in the 250 mark by the time the list goes live, and then I'm going to stop it there because that's enough, isn't it? 250 is enough, and that's it, isn't it? All there is now is to wrap it up. So if you want to catch up with the show on Instagram, you can do at Twin Peaks Pod. I'm on flick.face. You can email the show at twinpeakspod@gmail.com. If you want to support the show, you can do it at ko-fi.com/Twin Peaks Podcast plus YouTube. That's all the sign-offs for me done, mate.
You can follow me on Instagram at Chikanika or Nika Creative.
Awesome. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch up with you next week. Bye.
Bye.